The scale of the SM empire today is staggering. We are looking at a conglomerate that anchors the Philippine economy, operating over 80 massive malls, controlling the country's largest bank, and influencing the residential landscape with endless condominium towers. In many ways, SM has become the state within a state, providing the air-conditioned sanctuary where modern Filipino life actually happens. From Sunday Mass held in the atrium to the family lunches that follow, the rhythm of the nation beats inside the walls built by one family. Yet the architect of this colossal system did not inherit a dynasty. He built it from the pavement up. The image of the modern tycoon usually involves boardrooms and private jets. But to understand Henry Sy, you must erase that picture. Instead, visualize a 12-year-old boy stepping off a boat in 1936. He has no connections. He speaks neither English nor Tagalog. In his pocket, he clutches 10 cents, the only capital he has to his name. How does a child with literally nothing but a confusing new dialect and a pocket of loose change outmaneuver the established elites who controlled the Philippine economy? Henry Sy didn't just build stores, he constructed a privatized public square that unified a fragmented archipelago. This is the story of the 10-cent tycoon. We are going to dissect the specific behaviors and strategic pivots that turned a desperate immigrant into the wealthiest man in the Philippines. This is the Asian status analysis of extreme poverty, innovation, and the creation of a legacy. If you want to understand the real mechanics of Asian wealth, hit that subscribe button right now. To understand the drive of Henry Sy, we have to go back to the streets of Quiapo in 1936. When he arrived from Xiamen, he didn't step into a life of opportunity, he stepped into a life of grueling manual labor. His father operated a tiny sari-sari store, a claustrophobic stall selling basic necessities in single-use quantities. For 5 years, Henry's education wasn't found in a library, but in the 12-hour shifts he worked, standing in the tropical heat, learning the micro-behaviors of the Filipino consumer. He watched every centavo that changed hands. But the true crucible of his character was World War II. The Japanese occupation and the subsequent liberation of Manila leveled the city. It was an apocalypse for the local economy. During the Battle of Manila, the family lost everything. The store was burned, the inventory was looted. In the face of this absolute ruin, his father broke. He chose to return to China, unable to bear the weight of starting over from zero. Henry, however, made the solitary decision to stay. He stood in the ashes of a destroyed city and saw a future. This decision to remain in the ruins marks the beginning of the legend. Alone and with limited resources, Sy began buying surplus GI boots and cigarettes from American soldiers. He became a street-level trader in the most literal sense, acting as the bridge between the surplus of the liberators and the needs of the liberated. We need to analyze the psychology here. This was the scarcity mindset weaponized. He walked for miles to save a few centavos on the fare. At night, he did not have a home. He slept on the wooden counter of his small stall in the Carriedo district because he could not afford a room. He needed to protect his merchandise from looters, so he used his own body as the security system. It was in this desperate environment that he made his first strategic pivot. While other traders were generalists selling whatever they could find, Sy noticed a specific universal need. In a country that had been bombed into rubble, people needed to walk to rebuild. Shoes were not a fashion statement, they were a tool for survival. He decided to focus entirely on footwear. This was not just a hunch, it was a calculation. He saw that the shoe market was fragmented and inefficient. Even while he was struggling to eat, he was thinking about the long term. He realized that to dominate the market, he could not just speak the language of the street, he needed the language of business. So, despite being older than the other students, he enrolled in school to learn English. He sat in a classroom during the day and sold shoes at night. This duality, the humble student and the aggressive trader, defined his early years. He was building the intellectual infrastructure for an empire while he was still sleeping on a wooden counter. He understood early on that if he wanted to scale beyond the streets of Carriedo, he needed to communicate with the suppliers who controlled the global flow of goods. He was playing a chess game while everyone else was just trying to survive the day. By 1958, the street hustle had evolved into a brick-and-mortar reality. Henry Sy opened the first official shoe mart on Rizal Avenue in downtown Manila. This was not just another shop in the district, it was a laboratory for retail psychology. At this stage, Sy made two critical observations about the Filipino consumer that would fundamentally alter the commercial landscape. The first was physical. Manila is hot, humid, and arguably one of the most uncomfortable cities to navigate on foot. The second was psychological. The average shopper was exhausted by the friction of the marketplace. Let's look at the physical innovation first. Sy installed air conditioning. In the late 1950s, this was a luxury reserved for the elite or American military establishments. By bringing climate control to a shoe store, he did not just sell footwear, he sold relief. He created a sanctuary from the heat, the noise, and the dust of the city. He understood that if you lower the physical stress of the customer, you increase their dwell time, and the longer they stay, the more they are likely to buy. It was a simple equation, but it required a capital investment that his competitors were too cheap to make. The shoe mart on Rizal Avenue became a destination, not just a point of transaction. People would visit just to feel the cool air, and often they would leave with a pair of shoes they had not planned on buying. But the more profound revolution happened in the pricing model. We need to understand the cultural context here. The Philippines, like much of Southeast Asia, operated on a haggling economy. The price tag was merely a suggestion, the starting point for a negotiation. This system, while traditional, is inefficient. It creates anxiety for the buyer who worries they are paying more than the person before them. It wastes time. It erodes trust. Henry Sy looked at the American model he had seen in magazines and decided to implement fixed pricing. This was a massive strategic gamble. The conventional wisdom was that Filipinos loved the theater of the bargain. Critics said a fixed price would alienate customers who wanted the tawad or the discount. They believed the market was not ready for a non-negotiable transaction. Sy bet on the opposite. He bet that an emerging middle class, tired of the mental load of negotiation, would value transparency over the illusion of a deal. He was right. Fixed pricing democratized the shopping experience. It told the customer you are treated the same as everyone else. This built a reservoir of trust that no competitor could match. When you walked into Shoe Mart, you knew the price was the price. It professionalized the transaction and aligned perfectly with the aspirational American-style department store experience he was curating. The success of the Rizal Avenue store funded a rapid expansion, but Sy noticed something else. The customers who came for the air conditioning and the shoes were asking for more. They wanted socks, then they wanted bags, then they wanted clothes. Sy realized he had captured the customer's trust, and that trust was a transferable asset. He didn't need to be a shoe specialist, he needed to be a lifestyle provider. He began stocking everything. The word shoe in Shoe Mart became too limiting for his ambition. He shortened the name to simply SM. This rebranding was the signal that he was no longer just covering feet, he was dressing the nation. He had successfully transitioned from a niche trader to a generalist titan, all because he understood that comfort and trust were the two most valuable commodities in a developing economy. Before we move on to his biggest gamble yet, I want to hear from you. Do you prefer the efficiency of a fixed price, or do you miss the social art of haggling? Let me know in the comments below. The year is 1983. The Philippines is in a state of political and economic hemorrhage following the assassination of Benigno Aquino Jr. Capital is fleeing, inflation is skyrocketing, and the business elite are retreating. In this climate of fear, Henry Sy did the unthinkable. He poured his liquidity into a swampy plot of land in Quezon City, far from the established business district. This was the North EDSA gamble. Critics called it Henry's folly, predicting a massive, empty concrete box. Sy ignored the macroeconomic panic and focused on the micro-behavior of the commuter. He saw that this dead zone was actually a critical intersection for jeepneys and buses. When SM City North EDSA opened in 1985, it did not just attract shoppers, it absorbed the population. Sy realized that in a tropical country with crumbling infrastructure, the public craved a safe, climate-controlled sanctuary. He effectively privatized the public square. The mall ceased to be just a store. It became the center of social life. You could attend Sunday mass, eat lunch, watch a movie, and buy groceries without ever stepping into the heat. Sy's genius was understanding that in a developing nation, the provider of comfort becomes the provider of culture. With the retail engine running, Sy identified a massive inefficiency. Every day, millions of pesos in cash moved through his registers, and he was depositing this capital into other people's banks. To capture this value, he transformed a small acquisition, Acme Savings Bank, into Banco de Oro, called BDO. The strategy was pure vertical integration. When a customer bought a product, the cash went to SM and then to BDO, which had the capital to lend to the suppliers stocking the shelves. Sy possessed a data advantage that traditional bankers lacked. He knew exactly which products were selling and which suppliers were reliable, allowing him to assess credit risk with surgical precision. But an empire of this scale requires continuity. Sy managed the risk of succession by treating his children not as heirs, but as operators. His children, like Teresita and Hans, were trained on the shop floor, handling merchandise and ledgers personally. This transfer of the founder's mentality ensured that the family retained the discipline to count centavos, even as they expanded into provincial cities and eventually back to China, securing a legacy that dominates the Philippine economy today. From a 12-year-old boy selling surplus boots in the ruins of Manila to the patriarch of the country's wealthiest family, Henry Sy's journey is the ultimate blueprint for Asian resilience. His true invention was not just the department store, it was the creation of a privatized public square that unified a fragmented archipelago. He built the modern Filipino experience on a simple premise: give the people the comfort and dignity they crave at a scale no one else dared to imagine. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the architects of Asian wealth, please like this video and subscribe for more. If you want to know the richest Asian leading the new gold rush in America, watch this video next.